All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Melissa Davis. I'm one of the equity events managers at the Office of Equity. My pronouns are she, her. I need to pull up a document. Um, the Office of Equity is committed to hosting accessible events that promote belonging, justice, dignity, honor, and respect. Today we have two ASL interpreters on a call with us. We have Paula and Lori. We also have a CART captioner, Stephanie, joining us. And to use that, you're going to click the live transcript CC icon at the bottom of the screen next to the reactions icon, and then click show subtitle. Let me admit some folks here. So thank you for joining us. As I said, today we have Greg Mennegar on the call. He has over 25 years of management, sales, and marketing experience in the information management industry. He previously served the Secretary of State managing the imaging program for the Washington State Archives. Throughout his career, he has helped government, healthcare, and corporate entities to improve productivity and reduce administrative costs. As a leader of the Washington State Productivity Board, he is excited about the opportunity to help state agencies reduce costs and recognize employees for their cost-saving ideas. In his spare time, he is a photographer and listens to vinyl records with his trusty dog, Goober. On a side note, folks, before I have him pop on, we want this to be as interactive as it can be. So if you have a question, it would be helpful if you just use the raised hand icon. There's several participants today, so the chat may be a little bit hard to monitor. So, but either is fine. You can use the chat or the raised hand icon at any time during the presentation. So with that, I'll turn it over to Greg.
Well, Melissa, thank you for that introduction. And yes, Goober is here at my side. He's pretty quiet, so he probably won't bark during the presentation. First of all, I just want to thank everyone at Equity for the opportunity to meet with you today and provide information about the Productivity Board program. And Melissa, in particular, has been a huge help in coordinating this. I'm the program manager for the Productivity Board, and my pronouns are he, him. And the Productivity Board is Washington State's employee suggestion program. And so we're going to spend a little time today, probably not the full hour, but if there are enough questions, and maybe we will. But this is just a little bit of an overview of what we're going to talk about. I'm going to just give you a little bit of information about what the Productivity Board is, a little bit of history about the program, talk about the two different ways that employees can submit suggestions to the Productivity Board and what those cash awards are that are available. There are also recognition awards, and I'll go into the details of differentiating what those are. And we'd like to make sure that you're aware of all of the productivity board support that we provide as productivity board staff, as well as resources that are available. And people always want to know what are some examples of suggestions that people have made and that have qualified for cash awards. So we'll take a look at some of those. And as Melissa said, I like meeting people in person, and I love to have an interactive experience. So this isn't quite that, but if you have questions, feel free to drop them in chat or raise your hand. I'm more than happy to answer those as we go through the presentation. So a little bit of history about the Productivity Board program. It was actually introduced in 1982 during a nasty recession with the goal of reaching out to frontline state workers and getting their ideas to help find cost-saving ideas, to find waste and find ways to operate more efficiently. During that time, the the savings that are generated from people's ideas are measured within their first year of implementation. And so using that unit of measurement, there were close to $60 million in savings identified from employee suggestions. Many of those suggestions result in ongoing savings. So they don't just, the awards are based on the first year, but the actual savings are often ongoing. And state employees received a combined cash award total of over $1 million during the period of time that the board was in effect, which was until 2011 when the housing crisis came along. And at that point, along with a lot of other programs, boards,
I was going
commissions,
to send you my personal number for your the link.
Megan, can you mute yourself? Thank
sorry,
you.
uh, keep going. So the program was defunded in 2011 during another recession, and it was dormant. There were many efforts to bring it back. The Secretary of State at the time, Sam Reed, his successor, Kim Wyman, both made efforts. The Federation of State Employees was very supportive of the program, tried to bring it back. And finally, it was brought back, refunded in the 2023 to 2025 biennium, and we restarted operations in January of 2024, opened up the program for suggestions. And the previous iteration of the program saved about $9.50 for every dollar that was spent to operate, for the program's operations. So it was very, very effective and very efficient. Since we've started back up, we have 120 new suggestions and over $1.2 million in savings and revenue. We have some suggestions that are in the wings that should boost that number to well over $10 million once the projects are completed and approved. So we're really excited about what we're doing and excited. And I appreciate this opportunity just to build awareness about the program. That's something that we're still working on. There are a lot of new employees since 2011, and we've been making a lot of efforts to do outreach and educate all the different agencies. So any opportunity that we get to let people know about the program is wonderful and appreciated. So the productivity board was, I mentioned that it was started to find savings, but it also has some other um, benefits and purpose behind it in terms of helping to promote equity by giving state employees a platform where they can make suggestions. And I'll talk more about the process, but if a suggestion is eligible for consideration, then it has to be evaluated by the agency that it would affect. So it's a little different than saying to your supervisor, "Hey, I think we should do this," and they just sometimes will dismiss that idea. Uh, we provide a platform where people have the opportunity to have their ideas heard, and it's not the purpose is not to eliminate jobs or cut agencies or anything like that. In fact, those type of suggestions are not really eligible because any one of the things that make a suggestion ineligible is anything that would affect somebody's position or salary or benefits. So those type of suggestions that look as employees as a source of cost savings, those are not uh, allowed. So, and the other part of it is that in addition to our staff who review the initial suggestion for eligibility, the suggestions go to the agency, and then there's a 9-member board that provides an oversight function and reviews the agency's recommendations on whether to adopt or not adopt the employee's suggestion. So there's a lot of fairness built into this. Um, and that board does have the final say on whether or makes final determination on the suggestion. Also wanted to just share a little bit about what our office does. So we are part of the Secretary of State's office. We're part of the External Affairs Division, which primarily helps with provides outreach to the public about the efforts of the State Secretary of State's office. But we also our sister program, the Combined Fund Drive, is part of our division. So the Combined Fund Drive is the state's giving program where you can make donations through your paycheck to charities of your choice. Some other things that the Secretary of State's office does is manage elections, which is probably the thing that people are most familiar with. We also operate the Washington State Library, the Washington State or the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library in Seattle, the State Archives, which preserves the history of government in Washington, as well as helping both local and state government agencies manage records. And there's also the Address Confidentiality Program, which helps protect crime survivors by giving them an address that isn't public, so that they can't be pursued by um, the people that have victimized them. So I mentioned at the beginning that there are two different ways that people can submit suggestions to the productivity board. The first one is called the Employee Suggestion Program. And this is typically an individual will make a suggestion, but it can be more than one person. But the the employee suggestion program, so the cash awards are up to $10,000 for ideas that are adopted by the agency once that those savings have been realized. The there, as I said, there are some eligibility requirements. It can't be part of your normal job. If you're a supervisor directs you to perform a task and it saves money, that is not going to qualify. It can't, require it. It may be eligible if the agency supports it, but typically things that would require a change in laws are not going to be eligible. So all those requirements are on our website. I won't go through them all. The idea has to be submitted before it's implemented. So it gives the agency the opportunity to evaluate the suggestion and determine whether it's going to make the impact that the employee suggests, as well as have those cost savings, or it could be revenue generation. The ideas can be for other agencies or multiple agencies, so it doesn't have to be something within your agency. And the ideas don't have to generate, they don't have to be cost saving ideas. Ideas that improve customer service or safety or efficiency, which kind of goes back to that thing about not wanting to cut jobs. Uh, those can be recognized with recognition awards. And that is something that agencies can do on their own. And that can be anything with a value of up to $200. So the other program is the Teamwork Incentive Program, and this is different. The main difference about the Teamwork Incentive Program, as it suggests, it's more than one person, but it's also in the employee suggestion program, it's really just submitting an idea and then the agency implements it. In the case of the teamwork incentive program, the team is actually going to perform a project and not only have the idea, but bring it to life. And so that is the major difference. And because of that, it's something that the agency would sponsor. So the agency would approve the project and the team would perform it. And then once the project is completed, they would submit an application to the board. Uh,
Now,
Sorry, was there a question? Oh, uh, okay. So the team would, with the agency's approval and sign off from the agency head and a couple of other officials within the agency, they would submit the application directly to our board, and upon approval of the suggestion or the project, the team can qualify for up to an award of up to 25% of the overall savings. That gets split out among the team members, and similar to the employee suggestion program, there is a maximum award of $10,000 per team member. The other thing that's a little bit different is that if a team has already completed a project and it resulted in either cost savings or generated additional revenue, the agency can submit or can support them submitting an application after completion of the project, up to 1 year after completion of that project.
Hey, Greg, we do have a couple questions in the chat.
Okay, great.
Alice would like to know, is this related to or different from the gov efficiency at gov.wa.gov?
That's a great question, and thank you for bringing that up. So it is not directly related. We have been talking to the governor's office, and Kathleen Drew is overseeing that program, and she and I have had a couple of meetings to talk about how we can collaborate. So there are suggestions that we received that may be great ideas, but for one reason or another, don't necessarily qualify for the productivity board program, and some of the ideas that have gone to the governor's office, she is in the process right now of reviewing all of those ideas. I think she said she had over 400 suggestions that came in through that email, and she plans to reach out to folks and let them know that some of their suggestions could be eligible for the productivity board. So they are two separate things, but there is some collaboration there to try to maximize what the results are of those suggestions, as well as ones that come into the productivity board. So hopefully that answers that question.
Perfect. And then Sabrina asks, what if we have a cost saving idea for the entire enterprise? Can we work with folks from different agencies?
Yes, so that's a great question. We do receive suggestions where the suggester will say this is for the entire enterprise. Chances are very slim that every single agency, board, commission, higher educational facility are going to be able to implement any idea that it's going to be universal, but it certainly can be. And if the way that works, when we get a suggestion like that, we will start out, we will ask the suggester what three agencies they think would be most likely to benefit from the idea, and we'll send it to those agencies for evaluation. And if they come back and say that it's practical and that they could adopt it, then we'll start casting that net wider and reach as many agencies as we can. We don't have a mechanism there isn't somebody that we can send it to and say, hey, we think this should be implemented for the entire enterprise. Obviously, there are some departments like OFM and DES that have that reach, and often those multi-agency suggestions, that would be one of the first places that we would send it to see if it is practical and would make sense to take a look at implementing that for multiple agencies or the entire enterprise.
All right, that's it for now.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for the questions. I appreciate those. So this slide is really super, super high level, but gives you for the employee suggestion program, the slide just kind of shows that the employee submits a suggestion. Those are done through our website. We have all the application forms and all the informations about the eligibility requirements are on our website. We will receive those applications and review it and make a determination within 48 hours as to whether or not the idea is eligible for the program. And in many cases, if it's missing a piece of required information, like if it's a cost-saving idea, for example, there has to be some kind of cost-benefit analysis submitted. There has to be some sort of research submitted showing that the employee has done some homework to find out if it would actually be practical to implement the idea. And we'll reach back out if there are things that we didn't receive that we should have. Once we've determined that it's eligible, then we have a coordinator at every single agency uh, that's really a liaison between our program and their agency, and we will send them the suggestion and ask them to identify a subject matter expert to perform an evaluation of the idea. And that subject matter expert will look at the recommendation and do an analysis to determine whether it will in fact have the outcome that the person suggested, whether it's practical, and whether it does in fact make financial sense to um, analyze that. And then they'll make a recommendation to either adopt the suggestion or not, or there's a third option where they can look at it and say, this is a great idea. However, there's some implementation costs, for example, that the person that submitted the idea didn't take into account. So we're going to have to spend a little money to implement this idea. And so that's going to change the amount of savings or the revenue generated, and also potentially impact the cash award um, if it's not more than $100,000. That recommendation will go to our 9-member board who meets quarterly, and they will make the final approval and determination on the agency's suggestion. And going back to that equity piece, they will, if there's something that doesn't pass the smell test for the board members, they will ask us to circle back around to the agency and ask for additional information or clarification about that evaluation that was provided. For the teamwork incentive program, there really isn't there. The only eligibility requirement is that your agency approves of the project. So those submissions, there definitely is an application and some information that you need to provide for a teamwork incentive program award application, and we'll just make sure that we received all the information that's required, and then that goes directly to our board for review and approval. But it does, those eligibility requirements that I mentioned, like it can be part of somebody's job that's on the team. For example, in fact, it's helpful to have somebody who has knowledge of the process that's being modified as part of the team. All of those eligibility requirements it's really just whether it makes sense for the agency and they support the project. And I mentioned, that we get applications sometimes that are incomplete. So these are some of the things that are important to take into consideration if you're thinking about submitting an idea. Again, as I mentioned, all of the forms and eligibility requirements are on our website, so we encourage you to read through all of that information. The required fields are marked that way on our forms, and you cannot submit the form without providing all the required information. But sometimes the research information is not very thorough. So make sure that you provide as much information as possible. And we understand that you can't always sometimes it's hard to identify some of the information, but if you're not sure what your current costs are, for example, I encourage people to reach out to your fiscal office and ask. It's all public information, so those kind of things should be available to you. If you say that you did some research and found a study, for example, that supports your suggestion, then provide uh, a link to that. If there is, and we kind of ask the same thing on the evaluation. So if an evaluator says it conflicts with federal or state law and we can't approve this suggestion, we want them to cite that law that they're referring to. If you've talked to somebody within your agency that's given you information that you're using as part of your submission or your research, then identify that person so that so the evaluator knows who to talk to. Make sure you review those evaluator the eligibility requirements, and you know, try to put yourself in the shoes of the person that's going to be the subject matter expert evaluating your suggestion. Have you given them enough information to make a qualified decision on whether to recommend that your suggestion be adopted or not? And if it's a cost saving idea, there has to be some type of cost benefit analysis. We have a form on our website that you can use, but you don't have to use that. You can provide a spreadsheet that shows what the current costs are, what the changes are, the proposed changes will do to those costs and what the results will be. But there has to be some type of cost benefit analysis uh, provided with the suggestion. So I already talked a little bit about some of the awards and the payments. The bottom line for an individual is that the cash awards are capped out at $10,000. So you can get an award of up to $10,000. The employee suggestion award scale is basically just 10% of whatever the cost savings are or whatever new revenue is generated from your idea. The teamwork incentive program gives the agency some latitude in terms of how much they recommend. It can be up to 25% of the total savings or new revenue, and that amount is split among the team members. Uh, and I mentioned the recognition award. So again, it could be really anything. It could be $200 on your paycheck. It could be uh, something that, a gift card for the movies or to a store or dinner, just anything with a value up to $200. Those recognition awards don't have to be approved by our board or even submitted to the productivity board staff. The RCW, the statute that created the productivity board, gives agencies the latitude to provide recognition awards. And those can be for other things than suggestions. It could be for recognizing longevity. So your 5-year, 10-year, 15-year anniversaries, if you want to give somebody a nice pin or a gift card to recognize those milestones. If you wanted to recognize perfect attendance, really uh, anything that you think it's up to the agency to determine those things, and those do not have to be approved by us in any way. The other important thing to understand is that the awards are paid by the agency or agencies that benefit from the suggestion. So if somebody at the Department of Corrections made a suggestion for the Department of Licensing, and licensing approved and implemented that suggestion, they would pay the employee at the Department of Corrections the award. We do not pay the awards. The other thing that's come up, uh, I just like to address this head on. The other thing that has come up is that we're in a cost saving, where our governor has asked all of us to find cost savings, right? And I know that and on the surface it may seem like giving somebody a cash award when we're trying to save money may not look good, right? But the if you think about it, it's money that's already been budgeted, right? So the cash awards are coming from savings, reduced spending. So you've already been allocated the funds, and you're going to reduce the amount of money that you spend, and you're going to give the employee a small amount of that. And so what that does is it saves the state money. There's less spending. It should look great for your agency to do that. The other thing is, the other possible benefits are that you're increasing efficiency and We talked about, the program's not designed to reduce staff, but some of us are being asked to reduce staffing. That's one of the impacts that's been happening. We're facing that within our office. And so if you're reducing staff time as a result of an award, that may be an opportunity as well to deploy somebody into a different area or to help out with other work where there's having a hard time keeping up. So there are really a lot of benefits to doing this, and it should be looked on as a positive thing in line with the governor's request to find savings and to implement those savings. And
We
these
have a
are
couple
just
more.
some recent awards that have been made since we started the program back up. So and we like to have a little bit of fun with this. So you see the Secretary of State. I don't think he would mind me saying he's a little bit of a nerd. He likes comics and he likes board games, and he's got Mjolnir there, along with the Captain America shield, and the lottery commission brought their Hulk hands with them. So we had a lot of fun. They came up with an idea that's going to generate about $1 million a year in revenue from basically the cash money or the award money that they have. They're using those funds they're monitoring the way that those funds are banked so that they're getting the maximum interest that they can. And so that'll generate about $10 million in savings over the next decade, or additional revenue for the state, actually. The Employment Security Department, I'll talk a little bit more about these suggestions. And then one of the really cool things was the Liquor and Cannabis Board joined forces with the Office of Administrative Hearings to improve some of the processes that they share between their two agencies, and uh, had a nice teamwork incentive program award. I'm going to stop for a second, see if there are any more questions that have popped up.
We have a couple. Um,
Okay.
Samantha has, it looks like a two-part question, so I'll ask the first part. In terms of providing homework and data on our analysis for ESP, it has to be research done by others. And then,
So no, it does not. It's really just um, so research might be, we notice it within our agent that when we leave the office, I had to come in on the weekend and all the lights were on. And so I did some research and found out that we're spending X dollars on lighting. We're still using old, inefficient lighting. And I found that if we were to install um, motion sensors to turn the lighting on, that it would reduce energy usage by a certain amount, and that we could replace the old the light bulbs with LED bulbs, for example. Those would cost less. So there's a small implementation cost, but then the savings. So it's that kind of thing where you're looking at information that should be available within your agency. It could be external information where somebody's done a study. You might, as part of that particular scenario, say, I found some research on the internet that showed that the cost differential between having this type of lighting and LED lighting is X amount. And so knowing that we have, this many buildings, this many fixtures, whatever that is. That's how I'm calculating the cost savings. So it could be something like that. It doesn't have to be outside, but it could be.
great, thank you. And then also from Samantha, to clarify a previous statement, we cannot implement an ESP within our agency, even to gather data and see if it will be efficient before applying. We cannot try the idea in one office first before suggesting it as an ESP for the agency.
So you could, you just can't submit it for a cash award after it's been implemented. So you could certainly do a trial and then say that we've calculated, based on this trial that we did, we've calculated that for our entire agency, we'll save this amount of money. And so you could do it in that way. But just be careful because once the idea is fully implemented, which if you're doing a trial, it wouldn't be fully implemented. You can't submit the idea after the fact. Hope
Great,
that
thank
makes
you.
sense.
And then I think Aylis asked a similar question. Would a pilot be allowed if it's not operationalized? I think that maybe we answered that.
Yep.
Great. Someone asked, I may have missed it, but can you explain how someone can go about getting the recognition award valued up to $200?
That is really at the discretion of the agency. However, there are some things in the rules for the productivity board program. For example, if somebody submits an idea that doesn't have cost savings or generate revenue, it's not going to save money, but it improves customer service or it improves safety. Uh, it improves efficiency, and the agency adopts that suggestion, and it says that the employee shall receive a recognition award of up to $200 for that suggestion.
And then a couple more, and then we'll go back.
Sure.
In your example of the DOC and DOL paying out the staff member, are there accountability measures in place for payment? Because of the budget freeze, are agencies paying out employees for an idea? Could they underpay? Hopefully that makes sense, she says.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the is meant by accountability measures, but again, the there's no extra money required to pay out the cash awards. It's either because you're generating new revenue that wasn't there before and giving a slice of that to the employee, or you're not spending money that has been allocated, uh, and so you're actually reducing spending and giving the employee again a slice of that pie that you're not going to eat, if that makes sense.
Great,
So
thank
so
you.
it's
And then is there a proposal template for submitting an idea?
there is a yes, we have all the suggestion forms, so those forms will have fields for all the information that's required to submit an idea. And we've worked, we actually have received we received one suggestion that I remember when we were first starting on how to improve the form. So we're operating in a continuous improvement mode. Again, I mentioned the program just restarted in January of 2024. So we appreciate any feedback that we get from either submitters or from our agency coordinators that helps us make it easier for somebody to submit a form. We of course have to make sure that the forms and the information that we require uh, is in compliance with the WAC that oversees their two separate WACs for the employee suggestion program and the teamwork incentive program. But we want to make it as simple and straightforward as possible.
Great, thank you. And there are a couple links posted in the chat for folks as well. And that's
Okay,
it for questions at the moment.
okay, great. Well, thank you, Melissa. I appreciate you helping me out with that because I'm not seeing the chat. So I mentioned a little bit about this, but this is really kind of pushing more for towards the agency executive management. You know, we've been working to get the word out and to have meetings with executive leadership wherever we can, but it's really just a benefit for everybody. It benefits the agency, it benefits you and I as a taxpayer, and it benefits the employee. It lets people know that we as an employer care about employees' input. It could potentially help with retention. Obviously, there aren't any ways as a state employee to get rewarded in a financial way for doing things going above and beyond your normal work other than this program. So this is a way for you as an employer to reward those employees that go above and beyond and do good things. Obviously, the cost savings that we're being asked to provide for the state and to try to reduce spending, having the opportunity to have your ideas heard certainly can result in morale improvements. And as I said before, this really aligns with the stated goals of the governor to reduce spending, and it helps promote fairness and equity by giving people a chance to have their ideas heard. And then there are other benefits. It's not all just about cost savings. So a lot of these ideas do promote efficiency, um, help with, as I mentioned before, maybe uh, being able to fill in spots in your works in your operations where you don't have enough staffing by freeing up somebody to do other things. So a lot of reasons to participate in the program. And obviously, as an employee, as a suggester, the opportunity to get those cash awards and to make your workplace better. I mean, one of the most frustrating things, having been in management, one of the most frustrating things for employees is when there are inefficiencies in the workplace and it's hard to get your job done. So anything that helps that. And I mentioned that we have a website. This is just so the web address is up there. There's information about the two different programs, all of the suggestions. I mentioned the cost benefit analysis forms are there. We post news, we have a quarterly newsletter and we post those newsletters up there. So those have stories about some of the different awards that have been made and so on. And our team is small but mighty. We have 4 people on our staff. One of those, I love that. One of our staff members is dedicated to marketing, so we have a lot of promotional items that we can provide to your agency. We have refrigerator magnets that you can stick around. We have brochures, of course. We have these, I'm not sure how well you can see that, but we have these little cards that we can provide for you. I can get that to come into focus. There's a QR code on the back of that card for those that like to do things on their mobile devices. Uh, we're here to we're here to take your questions. So feel free to reach out directly to the productivity board if you're thinking about submitting a suggestion and you have questions or you're not sure if it's going to be eligible. We can't determine eligibility until we get the completed suggestion, but we'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you and help you get a better idea as to whether your idea would be eligible or not. All of the applications are there. And we also, any opportunity like this where we have the opportunity to connect with a lot of employees, whether it's an all staff meeting at your agency or it's a presentation to leadership to help them understand the benefits of the program. Any opportunities like that are welcome, and we can do those either in person or virtually. If you have benefit fairs or events within your agency and we can show up and just sit at a table and meet and greet and talk to folks, we love that. We'll be at PSRW next month, so here in Olympia, stop by and see us. And again, we're here to help you. So yeah, anything that we can do to help, we're here to administer the program. We don't make the decisions, but we're here to help move suggestions forward and get those processed. And I mentioned that I would talk a little bit more about a couple of the suggestions that you saw in the photos. So this first one is really one of my favorite suggestions because not only did it save money, but it really impacted people's lives in a meaningful way. So Holly Ann Dahlberg, who was shown in one of those photos, getting the big Ed McMahon check, or the for those of you of a certain age that remember the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. Um, Her idea was that there are a lot of people making uh, unemployment claims or sending information to support their claims, correspondence that are non-English speaking. And so this is where the equity and inclusion piece comes in. They were, in order to respond to those, they were sending those documents to a translation service, and so it was expensive. It was they're spending over $200,000 a year on the translation service, and it also delayed the process. So the typical turnaround was about a week for that translation to be done. And in some cases, she said that it took up to a month. So people that were in need of help were having to wait while that was being done. And so what they did is a lot of the responses and the information was very similar from uh, one application to the next, and they created templates that they were able to just plug in and use those responses, and that reduced the amount of translation services that were required, and it also sped up the response time to a day or two. So that was really cool. And then the Liquor and Cannabis Board and the Office of Administrative Hearings. So the Liquor and Cannabis Board enforces regulations around bars and cannabis establishments, and they will fine people, and then the Office of Administrative Hearings will review those. And so there was a lot of information that was being sent back and forth between those two offices. And it included not just documentation, but also audio and video. And they were scanning documents and then having to transfer those, and they were having to take video and audio recordings and burn those to CDs and DVDs and ship those back and forth. And they worked together to adopt a platform that allowed them to send all of that information electronically. And so that made things much more efficient for them. And it also, they determined that it's going to save about $44,000 a year. So the team members uh, got a cash award of over $8,000 to split. So those are just a couple. So the first one's an employee suggestion program idea, and the second one is a teamwork incentive program suggestion to give you an idea of how those work. And then besides that, I mentioned before that a lot of ideas don't necessarily have cost savings. And most of these suggestions are from the previous version of the productivity board, but these are things that you're probably familiar with. If you are an organ donor, they used to just put a sticker on the back of the license, and that could come off, and so your wishes might not be fulfilled when it was time. They also created child ID cards. This was during a string of child abductions and those ID cards had the child's fingerprint on them so that they could be easily identified if they were abducted and recovered. We've all seen the signs as you're driving down I-5 or over I-90 that if you feel tired, you should stop at the next rest area. That came from a state trooper. And then uh, believe it or not, I guess there are people that commit fraud through labor and industry making claims about injuries, and so they created a website for the public to report those people that may be questionable whether they were really injured or not. So these are just some things that were implemented over time as a result of suggestions to the productivity board that weren't necessarily the L&I one probably saved some money, but the other ones are more just really improving um, public safety and other things. And so that is the end of my presentation. I appreciate the time today. I My contact information is there. Feel free to reach out to me, or you can reach out to our staff. And again, our website is included here. I've provided, I'm not sure what happens after the meeting, but I provided a copy of the slides to Melissa, so she has all this information available, or you can, again, reach out to me and I'd be happy to share this with you. And I'm also happy to come to your agency and make a shorter presentation about the productivity board to help encourage participation. So thanks again for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Wonderful,
Hey
Greg.
Greg, it's David. Sorry to jump in if it's already going to be asked. Is there Samantha Greenleaf says, is there a way to see if an idea has already been suggested or is being implemented? And do people just submit and hope they work an idea is not already being done if they're unaware?
That's a great question. One of the things I didn't really specifically call out is that it does have to be a new idea. And so, and that doesn't mean, within the entire state, but within your agency. So we don't really have a way to know whether it's sometime in the past, other than if somebody else within your agency submitted an idea to us. We have a tracking system and we can look to see if somebody from your agency has already made a certain suggestion, but that would be something that you would have to submit the idea and it would go back to the agency. And sometimes they are denied because it has been brought up before. Um, we're not sure how to help with that specific issue. Um, you know, Other than to process a suggestion and send it to your agency for an evaluation. And then if it has at some point been brought up, we do ask that they provide some type of supporting evidence. So some emails or there was a meeting held or something of that nature, that shows that they actually did do it and they're not just saying that.
And just to clarify, Greg, the $200 recognition award can be awarded after a change has been implemented, correct?
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, that whole thing is really it's up to the agency to decide what might merit a recognition award, and it's really up to the agency. I know that there are some agencies I've seen some agencies that have a set of criteria that they have defined for what would or would not, what would qualify for a recognition award. So it may be something that you would want to create a policy around. But that's something that it doesn't have to even involve the productivity board, and it's really up to the agency's discretion as to how they manage that.
Great, thank you. That is all the questions in the chat.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, Greg. If nobody else has any questions, appreciate you coming on to do this presentation today. Very helpful. Something new that I learned about. So thank you.
Thanks again for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Everybody, thanks for joining and have a great day. Thank you.